Hello friends and fellow artists. I'm excited to be with you again today. We are going to start talking about another famous artist named Henri Matisse. Can you say that? Henri? It's the same thing as the name Henri, but you're pronouncing it with a French accent. Henri Matisse. He's a really great artist. He has a unique story because later on in his life, he was sick in bed. He could not get out of bed very much at all. So he began using scissors to create beautiful works of art. I'm going to share his story with you today in this book, Henri's Scissors, or Henry Scissors, depending upon how you like to say it. And after that, we're going to use scissors and create some shapes of our own. All right, let's read the story to begin.
Henri's Scissors by Jeanette Winter. In a small weaving town in France, a young boy named Henri Émile Benoit Matisse watched his mother paint china. He wanted to paint too. He drew pictures in the sand and he drew pictures in his school books. When Henri was a young man, he drew pictures in his law books and on contracts, deeds, and wills. Henri was sick in bed with appendicitis one winter. His mother gave him a box of paints and he painted until he was well. He kept on painting, forgot about law, and left his small town to be an artist in Paris. Henri painted pictures day after day and year after year. He was happy and his paintings made people happy. But when Matisse was an old man, he fell ill. So ill he couldn't paint. So ill he couldn't sit up. So ill he could only lie in bed and sleep. His paintings floated by in his dreams. Matisse finally opened his eyes, and they were filled with sadness. Now he must remain in bed or use a wheelchair. Would he ever have the energy to paint again? When Matisse was strong enough to travel, he went to the seaside. The sea air might help him get well. Before long, he sat up. A little later, he drew. Then one day, Matisse picked up a pair of scissors and cut out shapes from painted paper. He was drawing with scissors. A pair of scissors is a wonderful instrument, he says. Matisse cut paper all day. My pleasure in cutting things out grows even greater. Why didn't I think of it earlier? His assistants painted paper for him all day. It seems to me that I am in a second life. Paper cutouts covered his walls. One evening, Matisse lay in bed and drew the faces of his grandchildren on the ceiling with a piece of chalk tied to a long pole. As he fell asleep, they looked down on him and saw his dreams. They saw the shapes that surrounded him in his sleep. As time went on, Matisse cut bigger and bigger shapes. They filled his seaside room with color. You see, as I am often obliged to remain often in bed, I have made a little garden all around me where I can walk. There are leaves, fruits, a bird. I am deeply contented and happy. Look at all those shapes. Then one night, Matisse walked out into his paper garden, and the rainbow shapes cradled the old artist and carried him into the heavens. Are some of the stars we see at night coming to us from Henri's scissors? Perhaps.
So the things that we're going to need for today's Matisse project are glue. You can use liquid glue in the jar like this or just a glue stick. Remember with this type of glue that you only need a little bit. We also will be using scissors today. Make sure you have permission from your grown-up to use your scissors for this project, and you might need a little bit of help. Cutting with scissors is very tricky and it takes a lot of practice. The next supplies that you need are totally your choice. My number one recommendation for cutting out shapes to make a painting or a project like Matisse is pausing the video right now, hopping in the car and going to Home Depot or Lowe's or really any of those home supply stores and bringing home a bunch of those paint samples, the square swatches with all those different colors on them. They have every color under the sun on display there, and they're there for the taking. I've walked out of the store with a giant pile of them before to create artwork with, and nobody minds. They are actually really glad to see them going to good use. So if you want to try those colorful squares, you could, like I said, pause the video and run to Home Depot now. Or you could save this project for a day after you've run some errands with your family and you had a chance to grab some. So that's one option, maybe something to keep in mind for later. But if you want to get started right now, there are definitely some ways to do it from home. Of course, the easiest way would be to find some colorful paper. Any construction paper will work just fine. You could also use white paper and color it in. And also, today I used a magazine. And this is a magazine that I've already read, so make sure you check with a grown-up before you start cutting from something like this. But I cut out a bunch of different pictures from my magazine, and I had fun turning them into different shapes, just like Matisse. This one is just words under there. Isn't that cool looking though? And some plants. There's all sorts of different things in magazines, so it can be fun to cut out silly shapes like Matisse did, or find a way to showcase something that you found that you like right here, I cut out this shape of cookies. Okay, and I also, like I said, made a bunch of shapes out of colorful paper. They're falling, I made so many. I cut out a bunch of these colorful shapes as well, and I'm going to use all of them for my Matisse project today. So, when you're ready to get started, grab the supplies that you'd like to use, and you can create any shape you'd like. It doesn't have to look exactly like mine. It doesn't have to look exactly like Matisse. It can be a shape that comes to your head, and you can turn it into your own artwork. So when you're ready to get started, grab all of your supplies and go to work. Now, this type of project can be done in two parts. Maybe you have just cut out a bunch of shapes, and you're really excited about how they look, but your hands are tired and you need to take a break. That's fine. Set your shapes aside, and then when you're ready to pick it back up, the last step is easy. You just use your glue to attach your shapes to another piece of paper. You can set them up in any way you like. You can create a design or a pattern or just free flow, whatever feels good. And your final product will be a masterpiece made of shapes just like Matisse. Are you ready to check it out? I'm going to show you how I did mine, and then you can get started on your own. Ta-da! Here is my final product. I arranged the shapes on my page. They're overlapping and touching each other, and I really like how it turned out. How are you going to arrange the shapes that you've made? Remember, my friends, if you're having a hard time cutting out the shapes exactly the way that you want, you can always ask for help. This project is meant to be fun. It is not meant to be upsetting. So someone else in your family might need to help you a little bit, and that's okay. Working together can be really, really great. All right, friends, I hope you had a great time creating Matisse art today. Cutting shapes can be tricky, but I'm sure that you've been practicing and trying your best, and your artwork probably turned out fantastic. I can't wait to see it. Don't forget to remind your grown-ups to send me a picture of the artwork that you've been making so that you can be featured as our Star Artist of the Week. Speaking of which, I'm going to share with you our Star Artist of the Week now. Okay, my friends, happy creating, enjoy making some Matisse art, and I will see you next week. Bye-bye.